Welcome, welcome. How are you today?
Great. How are you?
I'm
Thank you.
good. Oh, so good to have you. So before we jump in, I'd love to hear you say your name in case I mispronounce it. I want to make
No,
sure I
no,
got it
yes,
right.
you got it right. It's Noga.
Okay, lovely,
Noga
lovely. Thank
Halperin.
you. Yeah. How are you today? Where are you calling in from?
From Israel. So the other
Okay.
side of the world.
Yes, the other side. Yes. Well, so glad to have you here today. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and a bit about your career journey before we jump into the questions?
Sure. So, first of all, on a personal side, a mom of two kids, married, and I work at SciPlay for more than 8.5 years now. SciPlay is one of the largest gaming companies in the world. We are owned by Light and Wonder, which is a very big corporate in America. And we have offices that are globally. So Israel is one of our offices, but we have many offices worldwide, which is part of the topic that we will talk about, how you work in several different time zones. Um, and about at SciPlay, first of all, as you said, Chief Revenue Officer, which means that I run all of the marketing and growth initiatives. We spend more than $150 million a year on marketing. So it's a pretty big operation. Other than that, I'm responsible for every new revenue stream that we bring into the company. The gaming world is a fast-paced world. So we're always innovating and thinking about the next step. And in the gaming industry in general, I've been working for more than 10 years. But beforehand, it's always been marketing. My journey was a very, not like a journey that you would see by the book. So I had to kind of pave my own way. And it took a lot of self-motivation, a lot of many times where, I just had to stand up after every time, falling again and again. So I think that motivation and self-drive is something that built over time, and I really understand and appreciate the importance of it. Um, so that's basically about me and my position.
Awesome. Awesome. So we're going to be talking about setting goals and how we can achieve those goals. What are some tactics that you yourself use for that?
Um, I try to make sure that my goals are combined with the company goals and that I understand very well where the company is heading. It's a little bit easier as an executive on the company level. But I try to, I also see it a lot with my employees where sometimes their personal goals aren't aligned with the company goals, and that's where there's more friction.
Mm,
So I pretty much, try to understand what I want to achieve and what the company needs to achieve and how does that work hand in hand. In cases where I realize that a personal goal that I have maybe does not work well with the company, then, I try to figure that one out and to see how I can maybe find time aside outside of work to achieve it in a different way. Or I try to change the scope of my work in order to make sure that it does fit my role or the company. So it really depends on where we're standing, but in general, I can say that we are SciPlay as a company. If you compare us to other companies our size, like we generate more than $750 million in revenue on a yearly basis with our games. So it's a pretty big company, but the team isn't as big as companies that are our size. So we're about 800 people, which means that
mm,
every person in the company has a lot to do, which means that in a company like this, uh, even though it's a big company, it doesn't operate like a corporate. So every person has a lot on their shoulders. so we can do more. So I think that is also something that's really important, to find a company that matches what you're looking for. So if you want to expand and you want to work in different areas, and you want your day to be more versatile in the areas that you focus on, it might make sense to work in a company that will be able to provide that for you. So maybe like a small startup can provide that, because your role is usually not like in a box. You can do more. So I think that's something that's really important, because then you have more room to initiate stuff, and to decide like more where you want to focus your time.
Yeah, startups give us that opportunity to experiment with roles, right? Because we wear a lot of different hats if we're
Exactly.
involved in that kind of environment. Yeah.
And then there are big companies that operate like startups, or teams inside the company that feel like a startup. And I think that's like what I was trying to say about SciPlay, where we're a big company, but we're still not a lot of people, so each one can do more. So trying to find a company that gives that environment to the employees is one where you can probably make sure that your personal goals and achievements can work well with the company.
Yeah. I'm interested to hear about your experience, Noga, when maybe you had a personal goal that didn't quite align with your job or maybe a part of your career. Did you shift? Did you realign? Did you prioritize it in a different way? What was an experience like that for you?
Um, I'm thinking about when I joined the company, I was the chief marketing officer, and I focused like most of my time on marketing. But I was also part of the executive team, and as part of the executive team, I was very involved in strategy for the entire company. But on my day to day, most of my time was focused on marketing, and because I've been in the marketing industry for now over 20 years. I did want to try to expand out of it. And it's something that took time, because when I joined, I had to build the marketing team from the ground up, and it took me a few years to do that. But once I had everything stabilized and functioning, it helped. I could, and that was like an entire full world. So it was very interesting, and I could do a lot in that world. But if I really wanted to go outside of marketing, it took that time where, I had to stabilize marketing before I could then grow into other areas. So that growth that I wanted on a personal level, eventually I achieved it, but I first had to focus on, the core of the role, and then I could grow into other areas. So that was something that worked well. Another area that I can talk about is it's very important for me to be a mentor of inside of work, but also outside. And
Mm.
um, and it's something that I had to initiate. So there was like no program in the company, and I knew that, if I wanted to do it, then I will get the backup from the company. But I initiated a program like that we partnered with a program, and I could be a mentor of someone outside of work, and still provide them with all of my experience, and with a backup of SciPlay. So, we see that happening a lot.
Yeah, that's so awesome that you took that initiative because you knew that it was time, right, for you to give back.
Exactly.
And it probably helps you, right? It's a reflection, right? To just kind of take stock of your own knowledge, and it's a two-way street, right?
Yeah, I think it's
Yeah.
important for our growth, and also for the sense of purpose that we have in our day to day.
Mm.
Making sure that we can find that. You don't always have the time for it. As a parent for young children, you can't always find that extra time to give to someone else that is not your kids or your employees and team. So I think that at some level you reach it, and when you reach that point, you really want to start giving back and to add some purpose to your day-to-day on top of everything you're doing.
Yeah, yeah. So, like you said, there's only so much time in the day, right?
Yeah,
And to really delegate that time and be intentional about that time is crucial to success.
right.
So, how do you find that balance between the work-life balance when the lines can perhaps blur a little bit because everything's digital and people are in different time zones? And how do you find that balance for yourself that you think is a healthy balance?
Yeah, so it is challenging, very challenging, especially when you work several time zones. As
Mhm.
you said, like I have a morning shift, which is like, 9 to 6 at the office, and then I try to go home and have like dinner and spend some time with my kids, and then I start my second shift, which is the shift with the States. So then that can go until very, very late. But then like I try to balance it by understanding that, first of all, if I won't be responsible for it and I won't be very cognizant for my time, no one else will do that for me. Like I remember as a younger like junior employee, I kind of expected my manager to tell me, you worked enough, you can go home now. And
Right.
that didn't happen. I think that
No.
just understanding that you should not expect anyone else to control your time and find those windows where this is now your window to just, breathe, to read a book, to do something for yourself. So I think first of all, it's really important to understand that it's on me, not on anyone else. And then I do block times, like windows on my calendar, just to make, because if I don't, my calendar will just be back to back from morning to night. So that's the only way that I can get some time to think and to do things that are like maybe not. That's when I'm not in meetings. Um,
Hmm.
and I take my days off, like PTO. I use them because I know how important it is to take that time off. And I can't say that I'm 100% off and disconnected, but it's still very different from my normal days. So I think that's really important. I see a lot of people that reach the end of the year with a big chunk of PTO left, and I encourage people to take that time because it's super important.
Yeah.
Um, so that's like part of what I do. I think it's an ongoing process of learning how to control the time and how to like, one of the things that really help is like trying to do two things simultaneously. So like, listening to a book when you're driving, taking calls when you're on a walk, stuff like that also helps with being more efficient, but also understanding that you can't be efficient all the time. Like we're not robots or people. So we need that time to sometimes just not be efficient, and that's okay too.
Hmm. One
Like
of
when
my
I
favorite. Oh, go ahead.
give myself tasks for elevator time, that's like when I understand that I'm taking it too far. Like, I'm like, okay, I can, well, I'm driving, and then I always tell myself, in the elevator, I'm gonna do 1, 2, 3, and that's when I'm like, no, no, no. Like this is like, take a step back, you need to breathe.
Yeah, yeah, it's really important because without those moments of stepping back, it can lead to burnout, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and
Yeah.
you need to understand it's a marathon, it's not a sprint. When at SciPlay, a lot of us have been working for years. We have like on the executive team, we have people that have been working for like 25 years in the company. So we all really do understand that it's something that is an ongoing like process. It's not, so we're not here for the short term.
Mm,
That's very important.
it's so important. when you were saying about the multitasking, and one of my go-tos is podcast or audiobook while I do the dishes. That's my, because also then I don't hear all the clanking of the dishes that I don't really like. Yeah, I love that. So also, just out of curiosity, when do you sleep, Noga? You're talking about you have your morning shift, dinner, and then your evening shift. When do you need to sleep? When do you do
Yeah,
that?
well, I do sleep. I can't say that I get a ton of sleep, but it is important. And actually, I do
Yeah,
think like sleeping and working out really changes your productivity and
yeah,
also your like positive approach to your day to day, like everything you encounter during your day. So that is something that I insist on doing. I try to work out 4 or 5 times a week, usually pretty early in the morning. I don't watch TV almost ever, so that's a lot of
mm,
food there.
yeah.
But I do try to, to work out because I feel like that changes my day completely.
Absolutely. It's so important, even if it's just something small, like 10 minutes of walking or cardio or whatever, and you can always build on top of that, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So this sounds like a good segue for talking about motivation. Because when you're exercised and you're well rested, you're probably more motivated. Are there other tips you have to finding motivation?
Yeah. One tip which I think is really important is like being a part of a team and a company that you want to win with, that you really feel like you connect with the core values of the company, that you believe in your manager and your team, and you enjoy like you enjoy the work together, you enjoy winning together, you enjoy going through, oh, my dog is making some noise here. You enjoy going through the goods and bads together. And wait one sec here.
Sure.
Okay, that should help. So
What's your
you
dog's name?
Juno.
Juno.
Yeah.
Oh.
um so that's something that for me is really important. I feel like how like when you're part of a team and you want to win together as a team, you really enjoy that togetherness, and you want to push because you want to succeed as a group. And that is so much bigger for me, it is bigger than succeeding as an individual. And
Mm,
I think that like at SciPlay, we are very motivated by that. Like um, the executive team, we meet, like we rent a house every quarter and like spend a week together talking about strategy and what winning looks like. And every time we finish that week, like we leave the house, like first of all saying like we really want to continue being a team together because all of us have been on the team for years. But we leave that week very, very motivated. So I think it's very important to choose who you work with, who you work for. I remember like working for a company where I said like I don't want this the owner I can't, it's difficult for me to be like a sole player in this company because I don't want I'm not attached to the core values of the owner of the company. So
mhm.
for me that is something that really changes the drive. Um and I think that just by having the surrounding yourself by those people, so it's depends on your level. It can be your manager, your colleagues, and your employees. um doing that and believing in the core values of the company and the strategy of the company is something that is very, very motivating.
Yeah, it's so important because otherwise we're just clocking in and clocking out and we don't really care.
Yeah. And I do think that it's also very personal. Like people are driven by different motivations. So that's what motivates me. But it is very personal. So I think it's important for each individual to understand what their motivation is. Like one thing that I do is like, those days that on my way home, I want to call my husband and tell him, I love my job. Like what happened that day? What was there that really motivated me? Try to understand that. And I think that can really help moving forward to make sure that you're making the right decisions for yourself.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. That's so great. That's so great to have a partner that you can reflect and share that with and take stock with.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And to have a lot of those like days where you really leave your job and you're like, I love my job. That is very unique, I think. Like I think we live in an era where we have the privilege to work, and like obviously not everyone, but like a lot of us do, and it is a privilege to do something that you really love. And when you find that, um it's it like really your work just feels different.
Yeah,
It changes.
absolutely. Yeah, yeah, it does change. So, how do you find time? So, you have a really packed day, and you've talked about multitasking some things and you take breaks, but how do you schedule all of that? As because every day changes, right? There's different priorities, different things will come up, maybe something midday comes up. How do you what are do you have any tips that you could provide for people to help with their self-starting and structuring their day?
Yeah, I think that like for me, I really try to go with the rules of like, having the big stones and the pebbles and the sand, and understanding every day, like what are my large stones? What are my anchors for the day, for the week? And making sure that those are the ones that I put in first, because in this world, you can be you can just react to things, or you can be proactive. And if you
Hmm.
like, if I will wake up and during the day I will read every email that will be sent to me, I won't be able to get my job done at all. So I need to first figure out what do I need to get done today, and then the rest, like, will follow. But I try to be very focused on that. And I need to then, think at the end of the day, like look back at my day and ask myself, did I really get that stuff done? And like if someone from SciPlay would look at my day, would they be happy with what I did? Would they say that, that I moved the company forward? So those are like, I do ask myself those questions, and I try to learn from it to make sure that, that maybe I optimize according to my answer to myself.
Hmm. Do you use different, there's so many tools now, right, to help us uh, stay on track and organize, but at the same time, when we're using all these digital tools, sometimes it can easily slip into now I'm surfing the internet and I'm distracted. What's
Yeah.
the balance for you? Do you have some tools that are really helpful and some techniques that you use to keep you on track and not be lured away?
I don't use a lot of different tools. Like I don't, I use a few of the like notes apps. Um, but I use the notes apps, which I think
Hmm.
are efficient, but I don't use other tools. And um, I like the one tool that I use is the do not disturb.
Yes, I'm a big fan.
Um, yeah. And I try not to go too much towards the technology. Like I don't have a smart watch. I try not to be like too much focused on technology. On one hand, I think it's great because it allows us to work from every different location and we can still be connected. But on the other hand, I don't want it to control my day too much. So I try to find that balance. So I like it's there's no specific tip here that I can say, use a specific tool. I would actually say that those tools sometimes you do they do put more burden on you than they help you. I really just try to use my Outlook and the basic tools as good as I can, to make sure that on Slack I'm not on added to every channel out there, that I know
Right.
which channels I need to monitor and which are just there, but I don't. But it's just being very cognizant to where you're spending your time.
It's so important. I agree with you too about the smartwatch. They might be helpful for some people, but I personally feel like I already get enough notifications from enough devices. I don't want something, yet another one on my person to pull me away
Exactly.
from things. Yeah.
Yeah. And my phone will always be on silent mode, always.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh, yes, because like we still like I still get all of the content on my computer, and when I need to go to my phone, I go to it, but I just really try not to hear all the push notifications and to let that distract me.
Yeah. I try to do that. I'm the same way. I try to delegate time for me, like when is the right time to do that. And my family can uh, break through my notifications. So if there's something important, they can call me. But just about everything else is on my terms. Like I check my email at this time and this time during the day. And, I try to make that sort of structure for myself so I don't just go down the rabbit hole because my ADHD brain can easily get swept away.
Sure, it's very easy for that to happen.
Yeah. Well, Noga, we only have a couple of minutes left. Is there any advice you would go back and give yourself if you were just starting out now?
Um, I One thing that I think that I started to do a little bit later in life, and I'm really happy that I'm doing it, so I want to give that as an advice, is involve your children in your work and your day to day, if you have
Hmm.
children, obviously.
Yeah.
I think that that's something that I really that it took me time to figure out, and once I started doing it and sharing sharing like the dilemmas of the day, sharing like big projects that I'm working on with them from a very young age. I'm talking about like 5, 6, with
Hmm.
with them at the level that you can. I think that's something that's really nice with work life integration, because you bring in your work to your house with your family in a way that allows them to learn from what you do and to understand better your life, and then they share stuff that happens on their life, and actually like they sometimes have really really good ideas, which is a good
Yeah.
um but I think that as parents trying to kind of figure out the balance and of day to day with work, and I find that being like something that when I talked about it with my friends, I hear that a lot of them are not doing it, and I think that there's a lot to gain from doing it.
Yeah, I love that. And because especially now with many of us working remote or hybrid, every day is take your kids to work day.
Mm-hmm.
And and now they're around, they're absorbing it, and they're witnessing it whether you're involving them or not. So I
Right.
love that you're advocating to bring them in because they're sponges and they want to know what their parents are up to. And like you said, they think outside the box. They have some really great ideas.
Yes, they
Yeah.
do. Yeah, especially in the gaming world, it might be a little bit easier, but like I learn a lot from sharing with them some of my ideas and thoughts, and I just get so much back from it.
Yeah, oh, so great. Well, Noga, we're out of time. Thank you so much for joining us today. Uh, what's the best way for people to reach out to you and keep the conversation going?
LinkedIn for me will also work very well. I'm very responsive there.
Okay, great. Well, I hope you have a great rest of your day or evening or whatever time it is for you with your family and your pup. And I hope we get to do this again.
So much, and continue doing this important work.
Thank you. You too. Have a good one.
Bye bye.